Welcome back everyone to another video, and if you've clicked on this video to watch, then you want to know what sort of assets that you should be purchasing post budget, because it's a very confusing time for everyone, and I'm here to cut through the noise for you guys so you know exactly what you should be buying. But to know what exactly you should be buying, I'm going to go through what you shouldn't be buying, and I've got an example of an asset here. Now, we do have this property in Melton, and for those who have purchased in Melton, you would have done pretty well over the past 18 to 24 months, especially the ones who got in that $500,000 price point. You would have done very, very well. But fast forward 2 years, fast forward after the budget, we have assets like this which cost $680,000. And when you look at this asset, there's absolutely nothing wrong with it. It's perfectly rentable. In fact, it'll make a great PPOR purchase. But when we're talking about an investment, we need to run the numbers carefully. And you can see that for a 4x2 in Melton, you're paying around $680. And when you start to look at the rental returns, a 3x1 is going for $410, another 4x2 going for $430, and 3x1 $425. Another 4x2 here is going for $450. And so when you start to run the numbers carefully, a property in Melton, $680,000, around 35 or more in stamp duty. Now I'm going to assume we're going with the 20% deposit, and for the rent, I'm going to put about $450, which was standard. If you want to be a bit nicer, you can put $470, which gets you about 3.5% yield. Now, before you had any negative gearing benefits, this property would cost you negative $17,000, negative $18,000. And before the budget, you got negative gearing benefits, which means you had depreciation expense, and your net profit slash cash flow would be around negative $10,000 per year, which means that you could stomach a 3.59% yield property on an average income. However, after the 1st of July 2027, you will no longer have negative gearing benefits, and every single property you purchase after the budget will also not have negative gearing benefits, which means that you will now need to stomach the entire $18,000 out of your wallet. Now, if you're on a basic $100,000 income, you're about 70 to 80K post-tax. Imagine taking 20K out of your bank account and ask yourself, can I stomach that cash flow? That's around negative $1,500 every single month. And this effectively kills buying low yield properties. Even if there was high growth to achieve in these assets, the days of buying low yield assets in the hindsight that capital growth would compensate us is no longer feasible, because when you buy these low yield assets, one, you'll kill your serviceability, number two, you'll kill your lifestyle, and number three, you'll put a lot of financial pressure on yourself, which means we need to look at different styles and different type of assets. And just a quick tip, if you've bought a property before the budget, something like this on a very low yield, you should never sell it, by the way, because you will get the negative gearing benefits. It's being grandfathered. It makes all the sense to continue holding on to this asset so you can reap those benefits. And you should really ask yourself, if you want to scale, if you're trying to build a property portfolio without negative gearing, it becomes harder, especially on the early days. And you have to ask yourself, how many negative $20,000 properties can I feasibly purchase? Maybe one, maybe two, and then you're capped out for a very, very long time. And this is where we need to readjust our strategy and look at different types of assets. And before I go any further, guys, jump into the private community. This is exactly where we cut through all the noise, we cut through all the BA marketing, we cut through all the misinformation online that you find about purchasing properties. And in such a confusing environment, you need the advice, you need the guidance of someone who's going to look at things rationally. And that is what our community members do, and that is what I do for you. So I help you identify specific locations where you could consider for investment. I don't tell you to go buy low yield assets in the hope that capital growth will compensate for that. And we have over 250 members helping each other out on a daily basis. You want to be part of the private community so you can cut through the noise, especially in this post-budget environment. Getting the right help will put you a step ahead, because we are entering a golden opportunity of property purchasing. You don't want to be the one missing out. Let's get back into the video, guys. So if you can't purchase low yielding assets like this, what do you purchase? And there are three main types of assets that you really do want to be looking at. The first one is higher yielding assets. Now, you can find higher yielding locations right across Australia, in locations like Victoria, in Shepparton and Latrobe, in Bundaberg, in Queensland, Rockhampton, even parts of New South Wales. You can find high yielding opportunities. And what do I define as high yielding opportunities? Anything above 4.5%, anything above 5% yield is what I consider high yielding. 4.5% is the absolute minimum I would go for, especially in this post-budget environment, but 5% is really what you want to be targeting. And there are very limited locations of that. And this is just a quick example, guys. You don't have to look at this location. You can look at other locations, but this one in Shepparton was sold for 560. You look at the rental assets, something like this, 3x2, 530, 2x1 is 430, and you start to look at the rents, 3x2, 480, 3x1, 460, and so on, right? So for argument, you start to put the numbers in, and you look at a location like Shepparton, you get 560 purchase price, around 27k stamp duty, deposit 12%. At $500 per week rent, you're about a 4.67% yield, which takes your negative 18,000 to around negative 13,000, which is still not the best. This is why this is the absolute minimum. A lot more investors can stomach 1 to 3 investment properties at around a negative $10,000 each. But what you really want to be targeting is properties above that 5% mark. Now, say if you got the same asset for above 5%, 5.13%, you're really helping yourself and getting it down to $10,000 per year after all expenses are considered, like land tax, home insurance, council rates, which is only around negative $800 per month. Now, that is far more different than going and purchasing an asset on 3.59% yield, around negative $18,000, $8,000 difference between a 5% and a 3.5% deal, which means that $8,000 can go into your lifestyle, can go into managing your other expenses, emergency fund, and even into your savings for your future investment property. And by the way, Shepparton will also grow in value. Other 5% yield locations, they might be smaller, medium-sized regional locations, they will still grow in value. All you have to do is look at the historical price growth and you will see. And if you go that one step further and you find a 5.5% deal, which is possible, it's much more difficult in today's environment, but it's still possible, you're around negative $8,000. So just by simply looking at locations that have a higher chance of getting high yielding opportunities, you are cutting your cash flow by tens of thousands of dollars, which in hindsight will improve your serviceability, improve your lifestyle, improve how quickly you can acquire more properties. And this will determine how fast your portfolio will grow. No longer are the days where you can stomach $18,000, 3.5% yield properties. They are gone. And if you buy them, then you're going to shoot yourself in the foot big time. So keep that in mind, guys, right? There are opportunities in Victoria, New South Wales, Queensland, and even in Darwin where you can get above 5% yields, 5.5%, even 6% in some scenarios. It's not easy, but it is still possible, and you have to put in the effort to find those deals. Now, that's the first asset type. We want to look for high yield houses and look at high yield locations. Now, the next asset type I want to talk about is looking at low density townhouses, blocks like this. Now, I've talked about this even before budget night, and I've been talking about this since the start of the year. Opportunities like this are a gold mine, and the reason why is because number one, it's cheap. It's under 500k. It's a brick unit slash townhouse block, good interior, perfectly rentable. It has an opportunity of growing in value, especially after all the house price growth has happened. Townhouses, apartment blocks, low density apartment blocks tend to usually have a lag effect, and these will grow in value. They also yield fairly well, sometimes better than houses as well. It is a case by case basis, but oftentimes I find these low density apartment slash townhouse blocks do have better yields than houses, and therefore be better from a cash flow perspective, serviceability perspective, and a holding perspective. So if you haven't already, you need to be looking at these type of assets. These are very, very critical over the next 6 to 12 months, in my opinion. And the last asset type that I'm going to be looking at very closely over the next 6 to 12 months is low density apartment blocks. So the first one was high yield houses. Then the second one was low density townhouse blocks slash apartment blocks. But these are specifically low density unit opportunities. And opportunities like this are popping up in Melbourne. I think they will have a very good chance of having good capital growth over the next couple of years, because opportunities like this have higher yields. They are talking about the 6 to 7% yields, and they're also cheap. They're under 500k. That means you can buy them. They will still be negative depending on the deposit amount you put on them, but you'll be in a much better cash flow position than if you buy a house at a lower yield. So opportunities like this, and you have to be very specific. I've done a whole video on unit block education. You need to go check that out, because you need to be very specific about where you buy, which suburbs you buy, which I have a full list for within the private community. But opportunities like this will start to grow in value. It will attract a lot more investor attention because they will move away from low yield opportunities to high yield opportunities, and low density apartment blocks fall in that category. And so this should really be on your watch list as well. So really, to sum up, guys, you can no longer buy low yield assets. If you're buying low yield assets, you screw yourself in the foot. You're going to screw your property portfolio. You're going to put yourself in a financial hardship position, and you're going to stall in your property growth. Look for 3 asset types. 1, high yield homes. There are a couple locations left. Number 2 is low density townhouse opportunities in regional areas. And number 3, low density apartment blocks in capital cities. So if you haven't written them down, write them down right now. And this will help guide your next investments over the next 6 to 12 months. It's an ever evolving space, guys. This is what I think will happen. And these are the asset types that I will be targeting personally. And if you have any questions, leave it down in the comments below and get the help you need, guys, in the private community. We talk about specific locations, specific opportunities that should be on your watch list. Till next time, thank you very much.